Could your God be too small? Hi, I'm Christian Nielsen. I'm glad you joined me again this week, and this is a question I've had to ask myself sometimes. As human beings, we have this inherent sense of wonder, but we also tend to want to have certainty, and sometimes we will cling to that certainty no matter what. When we do that, we start to create a God in our own image. We're putting God in a box. And any box is too small for God. As I said last week, God, the creator of the universe, force of love, is a love bigger than we could possibly imagine as human beings with our limited senses and imaginations. Whatever God is can't be limited to one person's view, or to one religion's view, or to one sect of religion's view. Every time we do that, again, we are finding a box and we're trying to force God into it. And at least the God I believe in can't be put in a box. This week, I want to share a couple of visual meditations with you. The first one is called Many Names for God, and it's a visual meditation based on a poem by Richard M. Fuchs. I added a verse to include indigenous religions because I felt that it was lacking. This explores the beauty of the many expressions of the divine that we see in our world. And I invite us to consider, as we watch a couple of these visual meditations today, to consider what ways we might make our God too small. How shall we address thee, who art the one of 1,000 names, yet ever nameless? O Vishnu, Maya, Kali, Ishtar, Athena, Isis, great mother of creation, womb of the universe, the feminine divine, blessed art thou who hast given life to all, and receiveth us at the end, forever thine. Jupiter, Zeus, Apollo, Dionysus, Lord of creation, the masculine divine, in quest of the golden apples of Hesperides, God of ecstasy and wine, and reason sublime. Amen, Horus, Aten, Ra, God of beginnings and endings, the soul, the Ka, soaring like a bird to the life-giving, light-giving power of the sun. All life is one. Shiva, Shakti, yin and yang, the dance of life and death from hand to hand. In perfect balance, the movement of forces, as the earth turns 'neath the stars in their courses. Rama, Krishna, Varanu, Brahma, God of the Upanishads and Rig Veda, mystic priests, and the Bhagavad Gita. Om Shanti, the lotus, a holy vow, creating your own karma and reincarnation, here and now, and the ever-present realization that art thou. Buddha, Nirvana, the enlightened one, liberation sought and won, in daily life begun. Under a tree, in the sun, to a state of being indescribable, comparable to none. Wakantanka, Gichi Manatu, great spirit of mystery, all things you connect like the threads of a tapestry. We are merely a strand in your sacred creation. We honor all people and things as relations. The cycles of life bind us together as one. May we walk in beauty as we make our way home. Allah Akbar, Ahura Mazda. There is no God but God, the All, the One, the Righteous One, purity of fire, goodness and truth to inspire. Fight fire with fire, quench the evil desire. Let the call ring forth from minaret to spire. El Shaddai, Adani, Yahweh, Elohim. The God of peace be with you, Shalom Havirim. The birth of conscience and a day of atonement, to confess, to forgive, to begin anew. Abba, Spiritus, Logos Son, God in three persons, God in one, God in all persons, prophets, teachers, daughters, siblings, and sons. The kingdom of heaven is within us. O let thy kingdom come. How shall we address thee, who art Alpha and Omega, the stars in their courses from Deneb to Altair to Sirius and Vega? Thou of 1,000 names and yet ever nameless, let us confess the mystery of thy holiness. Let us proclaim the wonder of one without name. Let the silence praise thee, and the 9 billion stars of thy namelessness. I mentioned in last week's video that a lot of theology makes my head hurt. And a lot of theology, I believe, is pretty meaningless because it doesn't actually ask the important questions. It doesn't actually matter to the way we live our life. So much of the early church was focused on questions as far as how much God was Jesus, how much human was Jesus. You know, when Constantine came along and started to form the church into his image, which was an image of power, not an image of God, there were all of these councils that were called, and we're going to force this, we're going to create this God, and this is the only one you can believe in, and we're going to force this one on you. They were definitely trying to shove God into a box. So, when I was taking historical theology, loved my professor, but it drove me crazy. The first few weeks of that class were horrible, and I'll tell you why. I did grow tired of some theology that was just talking in circles, and talking with certainty about things we couldn't know. And that really, really frustrated me, and a lot of that theology was more about trying to attain power and to mold the church into something else than it was about actually looking at the teachings of Jesus. So then, all of a sudden, one day, the skies opened up and we started talking about the mystics. And there are many. And the mystics dared to say, no, you don't know God. I don't know God. We don't understand. There's this journey that we're on as limited mortal beings, but we can't know for sure what God is. And that really opened my mind. It was like someone just opened the door and this fresh air came into the room, and all of a sudden I found some theology I could be excited about. Another bit of theology has to do with the fact that we will never, can never, it's unknowable who or what God is. And even words like who or what. Those don't make any sense when compared to the possible creator of the universe. So Pseudo-Dionysius was one of the first. Pseudo-Dionysius was in the 5th or 6th century. And initially, the reason we say Pseudo-Dionysius is because there was a character, Dionysius, not the Greek god, but there was a character in Paul's letters. And people believed for the longest time that these were this disciple of Paul's letters. But then it wasn't, it was realized later that this was centuries later. So in order to kind of keep with that school of thought, but also recognize this isn't the person we thought it was, Pseudo-Dionysius is how we often refer to them. And I say them because we don't know gender, we don't know anything. But Pseudo-Dionysius opened the door for new ways of thinking, for much more expansive ways of thinking. I don't agree. He actually does get a little more into they does actually get more into hierarchy than I would prefer in some of their other writings. But when it comes to the writings about what God is or isn't, I really found this to be refreshing. The idea that God was something much bigger. And there's this tradition that Pseudo-Dionysius helped initiate called apophatic theology or negative theology. And the idea was that we will never ever be able to define who or what God is. And words like who or what don't even make sense in that context. But instead, we can possibly grow to learn who or what God is by talking about what God isn't. And so in this next segment, which comes from a film I created a few years ago called Beyond, which you can find on my YouTube channel. I'll try and remember to place a link in the comments below this video as well. And this was, while Pseudo-Dionysius' theology isn't mine, I was really fascinated by this. So this was part of an exploration of Pseudo-Dionysius' ways of looking at the universe. And so I wanted to share this with you. The divine has no shape or form, quality, quantity, or weight. It isn't powerlessness. It is not any one place. We can't see it or touch it. God is beyond our ideas of time and space. His vision isn't warped by the filter of human senses. She's never hidden from the light. Their energy doesn't change, decay, or divide. It is never lost. It doesn't ebb or flow. She is beyond anything our senses can perceive. The divine is not a soul, a spirit, or a mind. It doesn't have imagination or conviction or speech or understanding, not in the way we know it. It is beyond our ideas of all these things. It is beyond our words or our ability to understand. It has no number or order. The divine three in one are beyond ideas of greatness or smallness, equality or inequality, similarity or difference. They are not substance or even a they. Beyond any concept of eternity or time. It is not movable, immovable, moving, or at rest. It has no power. It is not power, not as we can understand the word, because it is beyond. The harder we try to grasp it, the further it slips away, like sand through our fingers. The more we think we know, the less we know. The first cause of all things is beyond divinity, beyond oneness, beyond separation, beyond inward and outward, beyond creator and logos, parent and son, beyond titles like king or lord. The divine falls beyond all being and all non-being, beyond life and lifelessness, darkness or light, error or truth. None of these either. None of these. The divine is beyond anything we can say it is or it isn't. Our concepts and constructs of the holy can stand next to it, can point the way to it, but they can never be it, because God is beyond. In human religions and theologies, no matter how complex, there is the simple truth. The only thing that I am certain about in all of it is that the divine God is love. And more importantly, that love is God. It's as simple and complex as that. May we think about the boxes where we try and put God. And may we liberate that God in our minds. And may, in that process, may we free ourselves. Being certain in religion right now is part of how we are in the mess that we are in this state of Minnesota, in this country of the United States, and beyond. This certainty that we know who's in and that we know who's out. Just don't do that. Because when you do, you make the God of all of us too small. Peace be with you. Walk in beauty. Walk in love.